Married people, what was your first impression of your spouse? Story 1. I met my wife online via a dating site, OkCupid. Her pictures were terrible, but I read her profile and it was smart, witty, funny, truthful. So I messaged her just complimenting her profile as one of the best ones ever. Didn't try to suggest texting or a date or anything. She replied back that my profile was one of the better ones too. Long story short, we just celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary, together for 7 years. I have never felt as loved or loved someone as hard as I love this woman. I call her my life because she is. DW. I have no clue why she chose those pictures for her profile. She is by far way more beautiful than those pictures. Story 2. Oh, he's cute. Oh wait, no, he's an asshole. He was a little full of himself when he first met at college, to say the least. Didn't help that he was a bit of a gym junkie. I met his best friend a little after that. Apparently they had been friends from middle school on. He slowed down to walk beside me as the guy trudged forward and asked what my impression of the guy was. I told the friend honestly that I thought he was kind of a prick and sounded like a womanizer. The friend snorted before telling me that the guy was not a prick, but trying to be cool because he liked me a lot and wanted to ask me out. And he had been told by girls that he was a great friend and very nice, but not really dateable material, so he tried to be more of a jerk-a-lol. Friend also said he never had a real girlfriend because he'd always been too shy to ask anyone out. I later told the guy that he was going at it the wrong way with me and that I liked nice guys, so if he wanted to start as friends, he needed to cut it out. He dropped the act, and yes, he was really sweet and shy. 2 kids and 20 years of marriage, and going after that. Story 3. Well, she was also a little cutie, model hot, so far out of my league that I didn't even consider crushing on her for months. But the first thing I noticed about my wife was her kindness. She treated me like a friend right away. I found out later that it was because we had already met, and I didn't remember her at all. So for her it was, hey, it's that guy I know. He's a safe guy to hang out with in this crowd. And to me it was, this girl thinks I know her. I'd better act like I know her too so she doesn't feel weird. But having known her for over 18 years now, she is really just genuinely kind and warm to every human she encounters, right away. It's the most incredible thing. Story 4. He'll do. I was single and ready to mingle. I was 2 years post-breakup and had spent that time deciding what I really wanted out of my life and partner. I went to a house party, my first night on the prowl, told my friends I was looking for love, so they had keen eyes out. He walked in through the garage door and I thought he was cute and went over to introduce myself. We ended up talking all night. 16 years and 4 kids later, he's still doing just fine. Story 5. My wife had died a couple of years previous. I decided that I just wouldn't be in a relationship again. I didn't feel anything for anybody, really. I wasn't really attracted to anybody, wasn't interested. A mutual friend of ours got sick of my shit and decided I needed to date again. Didn't tell me she decided that. Invited me and every single woman she knew to a party at her house. I was completely oblivious to the setup. Just sat on the couch, minded my business, nodded, smiled, just like a real person would. Then, my wife-to-be walked in. She was, and is, stunningly good-looking. Her hair was up in a cute pony. She sat on the couch next to me and we chatted. She was bright, funny, and charming. She spilled salsa on her pants and laughed it off. Cool as the other side of the pillow, thanks, Stuart Scott. I felt things. I didn't think I could feel those things. It was like the world was suddenly in color and I hadn't even known it was in black and white. Story 6. I was 25M, she was 25F. We worked together, and she was my immediate superior. She still is, really, even if we haven't worked together for 22 years. The first time I saw her, I thought, damn, she's cute. Then a few days later, we were working together and started talking because I saw she was wearing a sweatshirt from my college. Turned out we had a lot in common. We'd gone to the same university, in the same major, and graduated the same year. We had somehow taken classes together and never met. She even had pictures from parties we were both at, but we never managed to meet. All that, and we didn't know each other existed until 3 years after graduating. We had similar views, like most of the same music, though she still can't stand 9-inch nails, read the same books. She's wicked smart, and incredibly passionate about her Watt K. She was perfect, and the best thing to ever happen to me. Still is. Now we're in our late 40s, have great careers, raised an amazing child who is planning to go to our alma mater after he graduates next year, and we just had our 19th wedding anniversary. Story 7. There she was, across the room at a friend's party, looking like she'd just stepped out of a magazine cover. My first thought? Wow, she's way out of my league. But then she laughed at a joke I made about the government, and suddenly she seemed approachable, even down to earth. Fast forward a few drinks and hours of conversation later, I realized she wasn't just gorgeous, but incredibly smart and funny. That's when I knew I had to find a way to keep talking to her. Happy wife, happy life. Story 8. I love telling this story. When we first met, I invited her to dinner at an inexpensive restaurant. I was a student. There, we had a nice conversation about everything, and suddenly I heard her stomach growling very loudly. I asked her, "Is everything okay?" She said everything was okay. Literally a second passed from the moment she said okay when she made the loudest fart I have ever heard in my life. So much so that half the restaurant turned on us. I laughed out loud, and she didn't even hesitate for a second. At that moment, I realized that only I wanted to see her shameful moments. Story 9. I first met my wife twice. The first time was at a college party I was dragged to by my then GF. I found out later that I was more appropriately her beard, so her dad thought she was straight. She was macking on some guy, and I was just wishing I was him because she was super cute. Fast forward nearly a year, and I'm at a friend's place, and she's there. I don't have image recollection, so she was just another cute girl until she told me we'd met before. Again, hoping that I didn't fumble, considering I was only one of two straight dudes there, and the other was a friend with a completely different type. I had to know about her, had to try. I'm awkward in social situations and tend to show off by just knowing a lot of stuff and being a really annoying person. Worked out my wife is kind of that person too. 13 years later, we're married without children, and I don't think my life could have lived a better 13. Story 10. The marriage didn't last, but I had two first impressions. First impression? I talked to her over the phone. She was a contestant on the dating game bit on the morning radio show I was co-hosting. Part of my job was to set up the contestants with their prizes after the fact. So I got her number, address, and told her how to pick up her consolation prize at the station. She didn't win. She seemed nice, so I told her if you come down to the station before the end of my show, make sure to look up at the studio window and wave. Second impression? A few hours later, a coworker said, "There's some woman in the lobby waving at us." I looked and immediately thought, holy shit, she needs a date. My future ex-wife was smoking hot. Then I remembered that I had all her info, so I called and asked her out. So, in a way, I won my wife in a radio contest. Story 11. I've told this before, but I have no idea when I met my wife. My wife has no idea when she met me. Now, the backstory. I am one of 8 children, and so, another person around the house may not have been noticed. My wife was friends with my little sister. Her mother worked, so my wife was around a lot. With 10 people at the dinner table, there was always room for more. My wife ate dinner with us. However, she was considerably younger than me. I gave her no notice, and I do not believe we had a conversation with each other. I graduated from college and had moved out of the house, so I rarely was her and did not talk to her. I was coming off a bad relationship that did not end well. I vowed to not get involved, just go out and play the field. Shortly before the relationship ended, I met my wife at a party, and wow, she had grown up and had graduated from high school. I asked her out, but did not see any type of future with us. We were 7 years difference in our ages. However, after a few dates, I start to fall in love with her, but that scared me. I was not ready for a relationship. I decided to break up with her as I felt that she had not had the time to explore the world as I had. The night in question, I rehearsed the speech I was going to give her. It's not you, it's me. Someday you will understand. I'm doing this for your own good. You need time to explore the world. I parked in front of her apartment and turned to her, and the words that came out of my mouth was, "Do you want to get married?" I swear I had never even considered marriage before that moment. It scared me so much that I refused to let her answer at this time and told her to think about it. The next time I saw her, I asked her what her answer is. She said, "I don't have anything better to do with the rest of my life." That was over 49 years ago, and I am as much in love with her as was back then. Life is good. She is an amazing woman, and I am lucky. Story 12. I didn't like him. He stood beside me on the chemistry bench in organic, college second wire. He pretended to ruin my experiments and generally bothered me. I had a fiancé, and I thought he was a jerk. He thought I was stuck up. 15 years later, we met again through work. We were both divorced from our first spouses, and I had 2 kids. He had 1. We dated for 2 years and married in 2000. This year, 1 child gets married and another is his best man. The third is a bridesmaid. That is the feeling of success. I am now a widow. I know he shares this happiness with me, but I wish he could be by my side. Story 13. I thought he was an asshole with a cute ass. He moved to the Midwest to work at our hospital and kept telling us all how backwards we were compared to Florida and telling us how we should do our jobs. Fact was, he was right. We were doing some things wrong. Not out of malice, just less progressive and not up to date. Few months go by, and he's become indispensable to the staff because, get this, he was so often right. I admired that since I too like to be right. A mutual friend encouraged us to talk to each other about not work, and we realized we had some things in common. Been married 29 years. Story 14. Sorry if you've heard this before, but I trot it out from time to time. We, me and my posse, had grown up in the same small town where everyone knew each other, but along about middle school, our town exploded in population. We had known every boy within a country mile, but suddenly there were lots of new faces. It was great, so we get to high school and check out all the new guys who have moved to the area. My BFF tells me that I have to see Newbie Cutie, the cutest new guy ever. Okay, sure, but no way can he be as cute as a football player I had my eye on. So we hang out where Newbie Cutie is about to have science class. And wait, I can't imagine how good this guy must be if he beats out the football player. But my BFF has gushed and assured me he does. Finally, he walks by, and I am seriously underwhelmed. He was lost in thought, almost skulking down the hall. That is what you're so excited about? Give me the football player any day. She thought I was crazy. I thought she had abysmal taste. We did not agree on this at all. Sometime later, I was messing around in his science room before class started, and my own class was elsewhere. Someone introduced us, and Newbie Cutie smiled. And literally, my first thought was, OMG, that is what BFF was talking about. When I'd seen him the first time, he was chewing on some problem in his head and almost scowling. He still does this. That million-watt smile made all the difference in the world. I eventually went out with the football player once. I threw up. He never asked a second time. Newbie Cutie and I didn't really get together until after high school. A year of college and a couple of years in the military, but it stuck. Coming up on 43 years this fall. Story 15. My wife and I met through online personal. I posted, she responded. We talked online and had decent, though not great, conversation, until it was revealed that we lived in the same apartment complex. She was one floor up and like 2 units down from me and had seen me before. When we met in person, we immediately hit it off and couldn't stop talking/being with one another. My first impression of my spouse was that she was just a good, nice, normal person, and I loved that since I hadn't dated that before. Story 16. Tiny lady who I'm pretty sure hates me is hot beyond belief. I was dating her friend at the time, and she said later, my friend only dated 2 kinds of people. People who were terrible to her, or people she would be terrible to. I was trying to decide which you were, and I thought you were cute too. This made me angry because I knew you were either a douchebag or a person about to be heartbroken, and in the case of the latter, I was most definitely going to have an inconvenient crush on you. That inconvenient crush was 20 years ago. We've been married for 12 as of today. Story 17. We met on a dating app and texted for about a month and a half before we met up in person. My first impression of him while texting was that he was funny and could hold a good conversation. My first impression meeting him in person was that he was shorter than I had imagined, but better looking in person than his pictures. We met in person for the first time exactly 6 years ago, today. Story 18. My cousin's best friend was visiting from out of state, and I had never seen a picture of him. My family constantly joked that we'd get together because we've each dated or been interested in people with the other's name. It was dumb. I never believed I could fall for one of my cousin's friends, but the second I saw him, I immediately thought, oh, he's cute. When I realized he was funny, I knew I was going to fall for him. We got together the next time he came to visit a year later. I moved across the country 3 months into the relationship to be with him, and we got married on our 2nd anniversary. We've been together nearly a decade now, and we welcomed our first child in October. He's the love of my life. Story 19. I had been out of an abusive relationship for about 3 months and was not ready to even think about dating. My friends made me go to a NYE party at their friend's house. I didn't know the person, and I really didn't want to be out on NYE, but they made me. I knocked on the front door and my now husband opened it. I immediately went, oh, that one. I wasn't ready at the time and he was kind of seeing someone, so we didn't reconnect for a couple of months. Started dating in April, and I knew by September he was it. It sounds so stupidly like a princess tale. Story 20. When I first met my spouse, my initial impression was a mix of intrigue and admiration. We were introduced at a mutual friend's party, and I remember noticing their genuine smile and the way their eyes lit up when they talked. They had this warm, approachable aura that instantly put me at ease, making me feel like we had known each other for years even though we had just met. What stood out the most was their ability to make everyone around them feel comfortable and included. They were effortlessly engaging in conversation, showing genuine interest in what others had to say. It was clear they were a good listener, something that made a significant impression on me. Another thing that struck me was their sense of humor. They had a way of making everyone laugh without trying too hard, and their laughter was contagious. I found myself smiling more in that short span of time than I had in days. Physically, I was attracted to them immediately, but it was their personality that truly captivated me. They were confident but not arrogant, kind but not overly saccharine, and intelligent without being condescending. Their balance of qualities made them stand out in a crowd, and I couldn't help but be drawn to them. As the evening went on, I discovered more about their interests and values, many of which aligned with my own. By the end of the night, I felt a strong connection and a sense that this person was someone special. Little did I know that this initial impression would lead to a deep and lasting relationship that would change my life in the best way possible.